We're going to go ahead and call our meeting to order for the Stillwater Planning Commission for Tuesday, August 5th, 2014. First item on the agenda this evening is our election of our chair and our vice chair. This time I'd entertain a motion for a chair.
I move we elect David Barth, our current vice chair, as chair.
Second.
We have first and second.
I'm sorry, gentlemen, we have Mr. Merrifield.
Yes.
Did you second?
Second.
Thank you. I'm a little rusty.
Please place your votes. That does pass this evening. Our second option would be the area of vice chair. Any nomination?
And I would like to motion that we nominate Mike Buchert as the vice chair for the Planning Commission.
Do we have a second? First and a second. Please place your votes. That too passes. At this time, I'll turn it over to Chairman Barth.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting summary for discussion and possible action. Approval of the regular meeting summary for July 1st, 2014. Has everybody had a chance to review that?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Let's vote. All right, and that approves with 5 votes yes and an abstention. The next item on the agenda, under Plans, Policies, and Ordinances for Discussion and Possible Action, Item 4A, Resolution PC-2014-1, Stillwater North Perkins Project Plan, Tax Increment District Number 1, City of Stillwater. Mr. Norman.
Good evening. I'm going to basically give you a little overview of about what will happen tonight and kind of what the process is going forward. And then Dan Galloway is going to visit with you tonight about the project plan that is being proposed. As you probably are aware from the materials that we've sent you, the city is considering the development of a tax increment financing district at some property located on the northeast corner of Perkins Road and Lakeview. And to accomplish this, there's a statutory process that is followed. And it basically goes this way. You create what's known as a tax increment financing committee, which will meet and prepare or will review and make comments on what's known as a project plan, which is a plan that basically sets forth a particular project that would be established within the boundaries of a tax increment financing district. Once that process is complete, then the next step is for the Planning Commission to review the project plan and then particularly within the confines of the comprehensive plan that is adopted by the Planning Commission and the City Council, which the one that you operate under right now, the C3 plan. And if the project plan is consistent rather with the comprehensive plan, and then you adopt a resolution that basically then goes on to the City Council, who holds 2 public hearings on the question of whether the tax increment financing district and the project plan should be adopted. So basically where we are right now, the Tax Increment Financing Committee met last night in a public session at 4:30 here at City Hall. They reviewed the project plan and after a lengthy deliberation voted to recommend that the project plan be adopted. That then moved this item over to you tonight, and so tonight what we're asking you to do is to look at the project plan within the context of the comprehensive plan and decide whether or not A, that project plan is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and then B, that it's a good plan that is something that will benefit the city. And to accomplish this, we have prepared a proposed resolution for you, and that is this resolution number PC 2014-1, wherein you will make certain findings based upon hopefully your deliberations here tonight and questions, comments that you might have for the city manager or myself or any other staff members that could assist you in this endeavor. And then again, if you think that these findings are where you are at the conclusion of this meeting, then the adoption of this resolution would be the appropriate step, and then that will go forward to the City Council, who will meet on August 11th to do a public question and answer session on this item. Any questions to this point? This is something new, obviously. This is the first tax increment financing district that the City of Stillwater has done. So it's new to us, and obviously it's new to you. So if there's questions or things you're not comfortable with, we certainly want to make sure that you go into this fully informed and fully aware of what you are doing. Just very quickly, Paula's not here, so I'm going to kind of take on the planner role here for just a second, so that should be really interesting. But basically, there are two things that I wanted to talk to you about very briefly. One is the current zoning of the property on Lakeview and Perkins, and you did get a packet that shows the approximate location of that. And I don't know how do I get this on the screen now that
It's already there.
it's on there? Thank you. This is the current zoning. This property is currently zoned CG, and you can see it there and basically in the middle of the screen. And it has been zoned CG for quite some time. And but right now it is some vacant property. It has not been developed. The property to the north of it has developed. The property to the east developed as a residential, excuse me, I say it's CG, it's actually CS. It developed as RTM, although actually it is a RSS development, even though it has RTM zoning on it, but that's another story for another day. There's CG to the north, there's IG to the northwest, and CS to the south and then to the west. So the property is appropriately zoned for the type of development that Mr. Galloway is going to discuss with you tonight. So any development there would not require rezoning. It could be developed as under a commercial use by right process. The other map, if we have it up there, enter. I mean, oh, wait a minute. Okay. Oh, cool. All right, future land use. This is from the comprehensive plan, and you can see that that this node through here is anticipated to be commercial development through 2030. So, in regard to whether this property is zoned appropriately per the comprehensive plan, right now the zoning is consistent with the plan, and it's consistent with the anticipated future use of the area. Questions or comments on that? None. Okay. Well, I'm going to step back, and Mr. Galloway is going to talk to you about the project plan. If you have any questions, please ask.
Thank you, Mr. Dorman. Dan Galloway, City Manager. This shouldn't take more than an hour or so just get comfortable. No, it'll take a few minutes. This project is a project that's been in the development for nearly a year. There's a development company based in Greenville, South Carolina, Realty Link Limited Liability Corporation. They have offices in Birmingham, Alabama, offices in Greenville, and offices in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They've developed some 350 commercial retail developments in the southeast part of the United States, with over 1,000 different stores occupying those projects. So they've got a lot of experience. They're moving into the south central area. They've got a couple of projects in Texas, and this is their first venture into Oklahoma. They chose Stillwater, fortunately, I believe. They're operating this out of their Birmingham, Alabama office. The principal of the company in charge of the project is named John Whitson. Mr. Whitson will be here with us later on throughout the project. The nature of the project, as you saw on the maps, the property located at the northeast corner of Lakeview and Perkins Road, slightly over 14 acres, is under contract by the developer. They're scheduled to close on the land soon. They propose to develop a shopping center with 2 large footprint retail stores. The first one being about approximately 63,000 square feet, the second one being 50,000 square feet plus. There will be 3 pad sites located on the west portion of the property facing Perkins for freestanding retail or restaurant development. The anchor tenant is a nationally known sporting goods store that projects sizable retail sales for this market. They've been looking at this market for quite some time. The other tenants are not established. But in discussing the project with the developer, as in most cases, these types of developments around our state and other states, municipalities enter development agreements to partner with the creation of these types of developments. The city council and the developer have reached an agreement on the terms of a development should a TIF district be created. The agreement does commit the council to attempt to create a TIF district going through the statutory process that Mr. Dorman was talking about. A part of that process requires that the Planning Commission be made aware and explain the nature of the project. It is because the zoning is currently commercial shopping, it would be a commercial use by right project. The development services staff would, of course, go through this project like any other development use by right project, and they will have to comply with all of our zoning, all of our building codes, all of our site development codes, drainage, etc. The project is known to require some drainage detention. It will also have to complete a traffic study. We anticipate some expenses on improvements to traffic lanes serving the property. Because of those public improvement requirements, it is an eligible project by state statute for this type of development agreement. The plan is, that's in essence the nature of the plan, a pure retail commercial development with 2 big box retail establishments and 3 smaller establishments. The TIF Review Committee met yesterday and has reviewed the plan and passed the resolution which you have a copy of. The role of the Planning Commission, as I understand it this evening, will be to confirm that in fact the area that's been described is consistent with our zoning and is consistent with our comprehensive land use plan, and in the Planning Commission's judgment is a project that is compatible with the growth and needs of our community. That in essence is the nature of the project. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Galloway?
How are they doing the tax incentive financing, or
Mr.
what are
Merrifield,
the,
you will need to speak up, please.
what are the specifics of the tax incentive?
Oh, the tax incentive itself. The development agreement, the development is projected to do somewhere in the neighborhood of $45 million of gross annual retail sales as the project's developed, which is a lot of sales. The cost of the developer to develop the entire project is approximately $13.6 million. The state laws on TIF districts, the statutes say that a project is eligible for a retail incentive tax increment financing. It's the increment of new taxes above what the property currently produces. The property currently produces 0 tax, so the increment is the new sales tax that will be created. The law says that you can provide a sales tax rebate or incentive payment to the developer not to exceed 25% of the actual cost of the whole project. The project has over $750,000 of public improvements in the project, plus other site preparation costs, but this project would be eligible to receive a rebate of taxes or over a period of 10 years of up to $3.4 million. That's 25% of the total project cost. It's capped at that amount regardless of how successful the project may be, it may create twice as much sales as we anticipate. There's still only, the maximum that the developer could ever receive is 3.4 million. The way that is calculated, when the stores open, we will monitor the sales tax that they remit. An amount equal to 1% of the sales tax will be applied back to the development. And that will continue for 10 years or until the developer has received the 3.4 million, whichever occurs first. So if all stores were built and opened within a year, and let's say the sales exceeded the projections, it's possible that 1% could return the entire 3.4 million in 5 or 6 years, and at which time the agreement would cease. On the other hand, if the project is slow to develop, at the end of 10 years, if he's only received 2 million, that's all that they would receive. So it's 3.4 million or 10 years, whichever occurs first. And again, there's always this kind of a project, just for the record, the city is not putting any of our existing funds into this project. These types of incentive agreements are strictly a sharing of new revenue, that future revenues that the city collects because of and resulting from this project, we share a portion of it back to the developer as the incentive. So it's not, it's more, I guess it's in essence saying we will waive 1% sales tax for a few years, but we don't have a mechanism to waive sales tax in the state, so you collect it and return a portion of it. So there's no, oftentimes we're asked the question, well, why didn't the city spend that 3.4 million for something else? Well, we don't have 3.4 million in the bank, and we're not giving them 3.4 million out of the bank. You have to recall, when they get 3.4 million, we will at the same time put 3.4 million in the general fund, 1.7 million in the SUA fund, or 3.4 million in the SUA fund and 1.7 million in the transportation fund, because those are all sales tax projects. Half cent to transportation, 1% to SUA, and 2% to the general fund. So wherever 3.4 they get, we're going to get 9.
And that doesn't count your electric revenue or water revenue or other revenue
Yes.
that indirectly goes to city trusts.
And there's in retail, it's difficult to give you exact numbers, and even the developers can't commit to them as far as employment. But with that type of development, there are going to be a myriad of jobs created. And granted, they're not all professional, high-income jobs, but there'll be a broad range of positions from store managers and assistant managers to department managers and all of the staffing in the stores. There's multiple jobs created in the community at all levels. So it has we don't measure those economic dollar returns in this project. We do it much more conservatively and base it simply on sales tax. So we've got hard numbers.
Does that $750,000 include the road upgrades that are going to be required?
At this point, $750,000 is for the drainage and any other public improvements, including turning lanes that may be required. Now, it's not locked into that. As they develop the site plans and the development services review them, and we look at their traffic study, if the traffic study requires more expensive and public improvements to that, they'll still have to make those. That does not change the terms of our agreement. That is only an estimate of the public required improvements.
One last question, Dan, I think, but do the dollars go to the developer or
Yes.
to the retailer?
No, it goes to the developer, which I think is a key point. I mean, if people are interested in how these agreements work, sometimes I say, well, that restaurant or that store would have come here anyhow. We do some individual agreements with, if one retailer is going to buy a piece of property and develop and it's the only store, we could do it with a single retailer, and the retailer and developer are one and the same in that case. But in this case, where you have multiple retail shops, we don't know who those retailers will be, per se. We are working with the developer. This is a developer incentive. The developer His fixed cost will be the lease payments. His payments do not fluctuate with the sales like the tenants do. But this is not an agreement with the sporting goods store. This is not an agreement with any other business that opens there. It is strictly with the developer.
Going forward, if this gets approved and everything like that, looking down the road, do you see this as a mechanism to attract a lot of developers? Or is this something, this is a unique one-time, what's our model for this fits into this program? How can we make this work? Does the developer approach the city? Does the city approach the developer?
City Council, we've been developing our economic growth plan for retail for the last couple of years, and we're still working on it. The City Council is currently working on some policies. But to answer that question, I see it as a tool that can be a repeating tool for as growth occurs in Stillwater. It is a model that we've seen used a lot. For example, it's used in growth around the Tulsa area, the Broken Arrow area. It's been used in the Moore development projects. It's been used in the Lawton's projects of growth. It's a pretty common tool in the state, and when the state statutes were changed to do that, it's become the most common tool that cities use to incentivize development. One of the nice things about it, one of the things that the City Council has recently discussed and staff has been strongly in support of is we want to try to work more with local developers. It so happens that many of the experienced retail developers aren't in Stillwater or Oklahoma City or Tulsa or Oklahoma. They're from Texas and from the East Coast, and so they're eager to come in here. They see the market. But we're really hoping that these programs can be used by some local developers. It doesn't have to be a $13 million project. It might be a $3 million project. But if a developer in Stillwater is eligible for these just as much as an outside developer, in fact, more so. But we have a lot of commercial property zoned and in our land use plan along the corridor of Highway 51 to the west part of the city, some to the east part of the city along 51, some commercial zoned along Perkins Road, both south and north. Some is developed, much of it is undeveloped. We'll probably be identifying those as potential growth zones for retail development, and I would expect that with the interest we're seeing from the retail market and the national retail market, there's a lot of interest in growing new business in Stillwater. So I think that this is going to be a model that we may see again. I think it's got a lot of potential. The nice thing about it is there's no risk to the city. We are not at risk at all by entering one of these agreements, in my opinion. We're only saying that if your project creates new money for the city, we'll share a portion of it back. If you don't create any, you don't get any. So there is no financial exposure to the city in that respect.
Is the city able to capitalize on any interest on that money? I mean, can we charge an interest rate on that note? Or is it just straight across the board? We're going to set it at 3.4 million and that's going to get paid back?
No, it's set. It's we're paying them, and so we're not paying them.
Can't make any more?
No.
Who's paying interest?
Every time we collect $3.50 in
We get a little extra
tax, $1 goes back to them until they get their share. And so we always keep 2.5 every time we give them 1. So that's the good news.
How much of our sales tax, city portion of our 8.813 sales tax or whatever is, you say 2% is general fund where we have discretion?
The city collects 3.5% sales tax, but some of it is earmarked or designated. There's a 0.5% sales tax that the voters approved, and it's restricted only for street projects, and that will expire in 2016. We will probably talk about trying to renew that at some point, but that's what has been used to pay for projects like the widening of Jardo Road, 12th Street, 19th Street. We're going to be using it on Country Club widening. That is a source for that. 1% of our sales tax when the Call water line was originally built. The voters passed a 1% sales tax that wouldn't be used by the city general fund, but it would go to the utility authority to help retire the debt on the Call line, which it did. It paid for that, and that is earmarked to continue to go to SUA to be used for SUA expenditures. So that, and I tell you about those two because that's 1.5% that we could never consider as a part of the agreement, because the voters have restricted those. They have a specific purpose, and they will always be reserved for that. Then we have 2% sales tax that goes to what we call the general fund, and that's what's used for police, fire, development services, parks, all of the services of the city that we don't charge a fee for. And so it's those 2% that are discretionary, and we're basically sharing that 2% 50-50 for a short period of time as the incentive. Does that make sense? Can I answer your question?
There is no share of property tax.
No. Tax increment financing districts can be established with property tax.
I'm familiar with one city, Tulsa, that I helped start. There was a sales tax and property tax at 71st and 169. But this is sales tax only.
This is sales tax only. The reason, the city can create tax increment financing districts with property tax. But with that, you have several jurisdictions who have rights to the property tax, being the school district, the county government, Meridian Technology. And so each of those boards would have to participate and say, we will allow the new increment in property tax to go to a project. We're not doing that at this time. But that could be done in future projects if all of the entities wanted to work together on something like that. I think it's a good project. I think it's going to add many opportunities for citizens of our community to go shopping, and hopefully they don't go to Oklahoma City and Tulsa quite as much, and they keep their money at home, but it also will attract a lot of visitors to our city as well. So we hope it's a good quality of life project as well. And I believe it's compatible with the zoning and the land use plan, and I recommend your consideration to approve.
Any other questions?
No other questions.
Okay. So thanks for the staff report. At this time, since this is open for public comment, we'll open up the public hearing and ask that if there is anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this plan. Seeing none, is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to this plan? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing portion, and we will ask for staff's alternatives, or I can read them if we need to.
All right. Left Tom.
Obviously, you have three options here. You can approve the resolution that is presented to you as presented. You can make changes to it and approve the resolution as amended, or you can choose to deny adoption of this resolution. So really, those are your three options.
Okay. I did have one question, Mr. Dorman. Under the alternatives, it references the master plan, and I am assuming that means the comprehensive plan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't some other master plan I was
No,
not aware of.
It's the C3 plan. That's
Okay.
the only plan that's at play here right now.
Right, okay. And another comment I had was that and we haven't done really any discussion at all about the site plan that's included in this, but as I understand it, the site plan that's presented here, because of the current zoning that's in place, this project wouldn't even come before our group. It would just be submitted as a use by right development, assuming they weren't trying to change or get outside of any of our land development code regulations.
That is correct.
So just because it's associated with the TIF portion of the project, that's why it's before the Planning Commission.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
I had one comment for Dan and all staff as they run through this. It gets real tricky on this stuff, particularly when you're working directly with a retailer. I am a retailer. And we've been, in some of the other cities that we're in, we've seen the big box houses offered incentives to come into areas where we've served and paid for 30 years into the community, and that hurts. And so we need to be, this sounds like a positive situation for Stillwater and a good plan, and I like the concept of dealing directly with the developer, although certainly the developer could have agreements with the retailers in this situation to get them to be in this. And we've got to be real conscientious and careful to not have government deciding who's the winners and losers in the game of capitalism. But I just wanted to put that on record and out there, but that we need to be very conscientious of that. This sounds like a very great plan, and I don't see problems. And I was going to ask, maybe see if there would be any situations where a developer might feel slighted. I know you said they are open to apply for these things, but I would just want staff to really exercise as much conscientious awareness of the free market system in exercising these. I know they're law. I mean, they're legal. It's not anything
No.
we're doing in error here. But,
Well, if I could, just comment, I know it's not a question, but I certainly understand in the comment. You know, I think we find ourselves in many projects, whether it's the economic development or whatever, we all exist in a point in time, rules start developing, and sometimes we think, well, I wish those rules were in place when I started, but you can't go back and do that. But because I've got the podium, I want to just reiterate, we've said this so many times. If you are a local retailer, and if you want to be take an aggressive move to say, hey, Stillwater's growing, I want to expand my business and do more business, we want to work with you. With the same thing, if you can increase your sales by $100,000 a year, and we're going to get some more sales tax with it, we can partner with you to help make that happen, and it doesn't cost the taxpayers. It's an encouragement for you. If you're a local developer, you have this same opportunity, and we really want to work with our local people first. I would rather help local entrepreneurs grow a new business, go buy a franchise, let's work together and get you a new store open, let's develop your land and get some more tenants in here to occupy it. We want to do that. So this is not intended to create competition, it's just to encourage growth, and we want the locals to be a part of it as well. Absolutely, they're first and foremost. Just my 2 cents.
Any other discussion?
I move we accept the TIF committee findings and recommendation and find that the TIF proposal is feasible and conforms to the master plan and approve resolution 2014-01.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, Cindy,
Ready to vote?
we're ready to vote. That passes with 5 votes yes and 1 abstention. The next item on the agenda is miscellaneous items from staff for discussion and possible action. Our next Planning Commission meeting is August 19th, 2014. If there's nothing further, Chair would entertain a motion for adjournment.
I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Let's vote. And we are adjourned.
Yeah, Dan, I'll tell you what.
Sign those down. No, you did good. I was sick.